Have you ever wondered why some leaders seem to be able to command respect and inspire people without much effort at all, while others really struggle to even maintain an element of command in terms of their leadership? The answer often lies within themselves. Today we're going to explore the concept of self-leadership and how you can use it as the cornerstone of great leadership. So what is self-leadership? It is the ability to influence your own thoughts, behaviours and emotions. Why do we even care? Why do we care if we can influence our own thoughts, behaviours and emotions? Well, if you are in control of your responses, your behaviours and your emotions, it builds a sense of trust with the people that you lead, because the idea would be that it provides consistency. People genuinely know what they can expect from you. If you're in control, you're not flying off the handle at some little thing that they're not expecting. You're measured in your response. You're not reactive. All of this really helps build trust with your team. Self-leadership also builds resilience. If you know how to manage yourself and control your emotions, your behaviours and your actions, you will be able to respond to adversity in a way that doesn't set you back in terms of how you feel and how you react. Understanding of oneself also builds empathy, as you start to understand how others operate too, and how your response influences them. Building empathy and self-leadership also informs sound judgment, as you are clear on your actions and decisions. So many reasons. So how do you do this? First of all, it's really important to know your weaknesses, your biases, and your preferences. What does that mean? This is about understanding your negative traits that influence your behaviour. For me, I know that I don't like a lot of detail. I tend to shut off if somebody overwhelms me with information or sends me a really long email that I have to comb through to try and understand. I really want to jump straight to what is the action, what is the ask. This can make me come across as abrupt and borderline rude if I don't manage it properly. I know this about myself, so I work hard to manage it and balance it out. I do this by being honest with my team about how this is a weakness of mine. If you need me to know the detail, please make that clear up front so I don't get annoyed as I read through more and more information and then kind of lose perspective over what it is I'm supposed to be doing. I do this by being really honest with my team. I talk about it being my weakness, and that if they need to run something past me that's lengthy in the detail, the best way to do this, particularly if I'm rushed, is to front foot it with, this is going to go into a lot of detail, but the reason that you need to know this is X and Y. This ensures that, okay, I know I need to know the detail. I understand why they want me to know the detail, and I'll take the time to make sure I fully go through it. And I don't get as annoyed by reading through the whole email and then discovering that all they wanted was an FYI, it wasn't even an action. This means that my team is well aware of my weakness of detail and not wanting to know it all, but I also have a way of managing it so that when I do need to know the detail, they know to give me a heads up, and it becomes a bit of a joke. Taking the time to identify your weaknesses and your biases really helps build self-leadership. It enables you to front foot how you want to accommodate these, and also gives you direction on what it is you need to build or develop. I also know that public speaking is a weakness of mine, so I work on my public speaking partly through this leadership channel. So if you do have any feedback or comments, please let me know in the comments if you are so inclined to help me improve. And if you like the content, subscribing would be amazing. Being open to receive such feedback from your team is also really important in your leadership, and I have linked a video on the screen that goes into that more. But keep in mind, as a leader, even when you seek this feedback, you often won't get the real feedback, as many people will find it difficult to be honest with you if you are their leader. So this is why I encourage the importance of anonymous feedback. It is also important to understand your preferences. If you know what it is that you enjoy doing, this can be where your real emphasis or the stamp of uniqueness that comes with your leadership. So if you excel at building relationships and quickly initiating rapport with people, then by building on this, you can really excel in that space to support your leadership. If you are struggling to identify your weaknesses or biases in your leadership, it can also help to think about those leaders that you've really disliked or have been annoyed with in your past. I have previously struggled with a leader who I felt had a predetermined negative reaction to me before we had even started working together. I felt like I was always fighting to assert myself and provide evidence that I could do a good job without needing any additional support from them and prove my abilities. A long time later, I found out that they had been told by a person that was more senior to them that I was a really good person to have on their team. And this really irritated them, enough for them to try and prove that I wasn't that great. So that was awesome. I have reflected on this and how it made me feel. And now I try really hard to ensure that I lead with the idea that I trust that you know how to do your job and you're doing a good job until you prove otherwise. Now, when you do this reflection on past leaders who have been difficult for you to work with, the key is to actually reflect on why is that such a trigger? Often what we find most difficult to deal with in others is something that we also have an element of in ourselves. I find it's those things that hit me a little bit harder than what they probably should that usually highlight a wee trigger in there that's something that maybe I need to work on myself. So for example, if you didn't like that a previous manager never followed up on issues when they said that they were going to take care of them, and that you were always chasing them for a response. If that hits hard with you and really irritates you, maybe just have a wee think about, is that something that I do? Do I sometimes drop the ball on those things? If you can go through this and note down your areas of weakness, bias, or preference, then you can make a plan for how you're going to work on them. This will need to be realistic. Don't make really big goals that you know, oh yeah, I'll get to that. It's going to take 6 months and I'm not going to see any evidence of that for a long time. It'll be really hard to stick to. So if perhaps you lack a little bit of follow through, then make a goal to set up a structure for yourself so that you can make sure that you stay on top of things. I do this through using my calendar. So if one of my team members asked me to complete something for them or to follow something up, I would immediately schedule it in my calendar with the time in the calendar that I needed to complete it. That way I can forget about it, I know I've got time scheduled for it before it's due, and I'm not going to forget. Perhaps what you need to work on is your communication and not being so abrupt in how you communicate with others. This is me. So again, this one is me. In my emails, for quite a long period of time, I actually had to remember to start the email off with, how are you? How was your weekend? I hope you are doing well. Because often I would be so focused on the action and getting something done that all of those niceties would escape me, even though I actually genuinely liked people and cared about them. I then set myself a task of making sure that I checked all my communication before I sent it out and didn't send anything out in a real hurry to get things done. I just took a second. I also recommend scheduling this reflection time, perhaps for 30 minutes a month. Just take the time to run through where you're at for that month. What were the weaknesses or the biases that you focused on, and where did you get to with them? What did you do with your preferences? Are you doing more development in that space to really enhance these? This way, you're being a reflective and focused leader who is aware of their weaknesses and working on them. The other element of self-leadership is regulating feelings. You know those moments where everyone knows that you're irritated and you really haven't hit it well. And that night, you're eating dinner thinking, oh, I probably should have handled that better. We all have those and will continue to do so. But the more you can practice responding in a measured way to the moments of rage, annoyance, or frustration, the more you will have the ability to come across as a great leader. One of the methods that you can use is to just stop for a split second before you have that knee-jerk reaction to a comment or response to someone that is going to come out in pure frustration. Quickly think, how important is this on a scale from 1 to 10? If it is high, i.e. a 9 or a 10, then you'll need to deal with it right away. And just take a deep breath before you respond. It could be that you use a holding question, such as, run that past me again. Even if you know the response, even if you heard the question that they asked that really made you furious, it just gives you a second to think, okay, I can't respond the way I really want to, but I can respond in a measured way that won't come back to me at dinner tonight when I just want to relax. If the importance of the issue is lower than a 6 and you feel really annoyed or a strong emotion, just park it. You can literally park it by saying, oh, I'll have a think about that and get back to you next week. Or if you need to respond to it in that moment, park it by saying, let me think about that for a minute. Let's circle back to that later. And then that way you've given yourself time not to have a reactive response in the moment. The main thing is that you're managing your response and regulating yourself before you do so. A quote from Dee Hock, the founder of Visa credit card, really sticks with me. If you look to lead, invest at least 40% of your time in managing yourself. If you can take the short amount of time each month, be that 30 minutes or longer or shorter, to check in with yourself on what reflections have come up for your preferences, biases or weaknesses, you'll be a better leader for it. And if you need more support or help and feel stuck and unfulfilled in your leadership role, check out the video on your screen. And thanks very much for watching.